Da da da! What's my good cheer? It looks like Nancy got here even before I got here today. I don't know if I hit that live button or, right, just a little bit of a glitch in the matrix, but whatever it is, I'm here now. Oh my goodness. I was like a slug today. A slug today. I basically flaked out for most of the day. Every once in a while, a thought would come to my mind to say, get up, right? Go wash the dishes or, right? Go get a little chore done. But a chore, I don't know. That just seems like a really soft word for how I felt today because I had about this much energy in order to do anything. In fact, even coming live today, I thought and contemplated on it a few times during the course of the day. Oh, now would be a good time to go live. And then just passing it on just because, right? Not because I didn't want to be here. It was just because I could not draw that energy for the life of me. Now it's bedtime. I've even got my pajamas, my sheep. I don't count sheep or anything. I'm very grateful that I have good sleeping habits. It wasn't always the case. Throughout my entire life, I think up from my late teens until I would have to say early 40s, I was a late bird. I'd stay up all night and sleep all day. I can't imagine how much of my life, right? That part of your life that is social, you know what I mean? Because during those proper hours, those are hours that for the majority of the population, they're all out and about and doing their thing. And that's how we mingle, that's how we stay social. So I think it was detrimental to me, right? The fact that, like, I actually hurt myself by the fact that, I would stay up all night and sleep all day because those relationships, right? Those friends, that family, those opportunities for work and movement forward, right? Those weren't the hours that I was living in. Those weren't the hours I was existing in. And, I'm not one for crying over spilt milk, but I have to take note of missed opportunities, don't I? And sometimes, we look at these things and think, well, what's the opportunity in that? Well, the opportunity is always the movement. It always is. So at the very least today, even though I was a slug, even though it took every ounce of me just to get up and do a couple of dishes today or take care of the cat's needs, it got done. It was enough. And not only was it enough, it was noticeable enough for me to take note because also in that contemplation, right? And especially in the lessons that I've been getting in the past couple of months, right? About taking care of myself, about, making sure that I'm enjoying the movement, that I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and that I'm up for the challenge, right? That I don't want to be beating myself up and showing up because I have to. I want to show up because I want to. And I always want to, right? But sometimes in that exhaustion, sometimes in that the hiccups of our daily lives, right? There might be a better opportune time to show up rather than the moment that we're in right now. And that's the truth. That's the truth for me. And I am grateful for these small understandings that come to me as the guilt and the shame and the questioning, right? That little bit of excuses that we bring to the table, that we can, in an honest and genuine way, look at it, and not in a way that we tear ourselves apart or right, tear anybody else apart, or think badly of ourselves or think badly of anybody else, but just enough just to take notice, right? And I have to say, I took notice where my energy levels were at today. I did the best that I could without pushing myself, without overextending myself, and also taking note that it was definitely a lesson, right? There was definitely a lesson in that. Okay, you guys, it's Monday and we have 10 minutes, right, to get this word at very least picked. I'm good. We can chit chat for an hour if you want to chit chat for an hour. It is what it is. But first off, let's pick this word that we're going to talk about all week. And if you've never popped into one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And each week we pick a powerful word. I made a list of 60 or 70 words. We're going to pick 54 words, powerful words. We're going to delve into the word with a different perspective, different thought, different experience, whether it's my experience, somebody else's experience, or maybe something we've never dealt with before. But in any case, we're going to stick with it all week. So let's pick that word right now. I have no idea what the word is going to be. It's going to be the first thing that comes to my mind the first day that we pick it. It's going to be the first perspective. I think it's the strongest perspective. Watch me just prove myself wrong when I pick the word and I go blank, but it hasn't happened yet. I don't suspect that it'll happen now. But let's just pick this first word. Ooh. We are going to talk about all week this word, enthusiasm. Wow. This is a good word. This is a word I had no idea that I had written down either. And also, it's kind of relatable, isn't it, to what I said about when I came in today, that where my energy levels are. Enthusiasm is nothing but pure energy. It was something that was instilled in me by my father. It was through the anticipation of him coming home from fishing and me not seeing him for months at a time, that I would actually be standing at the door, right? And I would just fly into his arms even before he even got out of the car. And I loved my father so much. Me and my father were very, very much alike, yet he never imprinted his lessons on me. Not in a kind of sit down, let's talk about life, right? This is some life lessons that I can pass down to you. These are some of my beliefs. There was none of that. And me not being woke to any of those ideas, I just kind of floated through my life. Floating is not the word for it. It was a very hyper vigilant kind of existence. My father was a very much an empath. I'm very much my father's daughter. I'm grateful for that, because it was in my choices that I swung a little bit further to my father's side than I did to my mother. And no disrespect to my mother, because my mother was in her own pain and she was in her own lessons, and she can't help the person that she was, or the experiences or the environment that she was in, right? That I kind of, right? Sometimes there is collateral damage, and I would have to be honest in that. And so I've gotten that opportunity to release that pain, offer up a little bit of forgiveness for myself, for not being the daughter I would have liked to have been, but I was the best daughter. I was pretty good for the experience that I had gone through, right? To be able to have any kind of relationship with my mother was a miracle in itself. That I was able to have that resilience and to be able to have, right, that understanding, that compassion for where somebody else was. And again, I wasn't woke to any of these ideas, right? It was all in the lessons. It was all in the programming, right? And you could say, wow, you must have had the most amazing parents in the whole world. I come from a very, very dynamic family. Each one of us in that family was their own movement. They were their own movement. They were their own creation. They were their own being in the experiences that each one of us and them had, right? And I was the product of somebody who was very empathic, and I was also the product of somebody who was very narcissistic and sadistic. And I would have to say, because I'm looking at my situation through a child's eyes, that I would suspect that my father was a little bit sensitive that way, because I take after my father. I understand my own sensitivities, and even though I show up here like I know it, truly I don't, right? And I would have to say in some aspects that, I could say that I'm super empathic, right? But I have empathic tendencies, but I also have, right? As much as I'm my father's daughter, I am my mother's daughter. And part of the lessons for me in this lifetime, and I woke up to these ideas a little bit later in life, but I am treading water. I'm doing the best that I can in any situation that I find myself in, right? But I have always been an optimist, right? That person who is always looking forward to brighter days, right? Over the rainbow, right? I was always looking at the sunnier side of life. I'm always looking at the adventures and the experiences, right? Knowing that the hard times had to end, that the hard times were momentary. And as soon as, right, the situation calmed down or somebody came to their senses, that things would fade out to a kind of a whimper or a hush, right? I would prefer the hush, right? But sometimes in the quietness, that is the most, I'm not going to say scary, but I would say insecure moments, because that's where we can have the questionings, right? That's why is it so quiet? Why isn't they speaking to me, right? Why aren't we doing anything? Ooh, what did I do? And again, guilt and shame, that can trigger guilt and shame when there's no need for guilt and shame at all. But for highly sensitives and empathic people, that, right, that's enough, right? We can be our own piranhas. We can be self um I was going to say self-serving, but it's not self-serving that I'm looking for. Self-devouring, is that the word? Right? That, that we can self-supply. There you go. I'm going to take that from Sam Vatkin. I think that we can feed on ourselves, right? We can allow that guilt and shame to come up, and we can put ourselves into those states. So optimism, and we got actually this word, and let's get back onto it. Was it enthusiasm, right? but I'm looking at it in a way of optimism, right? But the difference with the enthusiasm is the looking forward to what's coming next, right? That whatever experience that you're moving into, right? That energy is there, that excitement is there, that curiosity is there, and the joy of being able to do that. That's the enthusiasm. It's what I try to bring to my live show every time that I go live. I don't always hit the mark, right? Sometimes, the lessons can be heavy. Sometimes like today, right? I was a slug. Like seriously, I was a slug, but I enjoyed my day, right? And I held myself accountable, right? For the things that I needed to get done. But for that could hold off, right? Till tomorrow. And I'm not usually that person, right? I used to be, but I'm trying really hard, right? The idea comes to me, that need comes to me. I have to do it. I have to get it off the plate because I've known in my own experiences and in these lessons that I get that I put things off, it becomes heavy, right? It doesn't necessarily become a worse situation for the situation that I'm in. But up here, right? The way I stew on things, the way I munch on things, the way I can worry, the way I can stress on things. So, I've come through the lessons to understand that the sooner I can get these things off my plate, cleared off my plate, dealt with, had those conversations, right? Gotten those lessons, the sooner I can get back to doing something maybe that I enjoy, right? A little bit more, something that might just move me a little bit further ahead because now I've cleared the plate, right? I can take on a little bit more, right? But in my ideas about baby steps, right? It makes allowances, doesn't it? In the baby steps, that stress level, that rush, right? That you got to get to it. You're not fast enough, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough. Like that's something that if it just goes slow, it just seems so mundane. It just seems so insignificant. It doesn't even seem worth listening to because we are not in that hairy scary. You're not in your hypervigilance. You're not in that moment of stress, right? Because you haven't allowed it to get to that point because you've been taking care of things along the way that you can actually be optimistic. You can be enthusiastic for what comes next because right, you didn't put yourself in a scary state, right? On the norm, on a day like today, and it started off right from the beginning that I just like, oh my goodness, I could just crawl right back into bed. That doesn't happen to me very often. And I doubt whether or not I could go on to sleep because it wasn't a sleep issue. I am a good sleeper. I don't count these are sheep. I don't count sheep at night. I lay my head down and within 5 minutes I I am out, right? So I don't allow things to carry over. I don't allow things to stress me out. And a lot of those things that I do about getting it off my plate make it so that it's possible that I could have better habits, right? That I can be enthusiastic for what I do, that I can look forward to tomorrow knowing that because I did it in baby steps today, I still got it off my plate, but I didn't put myself in a hairy scary situation, right? If the need be, right? If whatever it was serious and it needed to be dealt with right away, that's when we can come to the table. But we're coming to the table with full faculties, right? With a cleared plate so that we can get these problems resolved, right? Have these questions answers, have the optimism to move into something that we don't understand, right? Knowing that, well, it hasn't hurt too badly so far. And because sometimes we can be a little bit self devouring, right? We can't allow the guilt and shame to surface. That quite often we don't even have time. We don't even think about it because we're so wound up in the hairy scary. We're so wound up in what we have to do. We're so wound up in what we haven't gotten done, right? That there isn't even an opportunity to be optimistic for anything, right? Except for that next cup of coffee, or I got another cocktail like I had last night. I enjoyed it so much last night. I made another one for myself tonight. Just a little bedtime, right? I'm not a drinker. I'm not a drinker. But at Christmas time, I bought all these bottles, got all this alcohol, and they are pretty yummy. They're a drink that I invented, and it's pretty amazing. I could enter a contest with my drink and I would probably win, right? Well, we got this amazing word this week, enthusiasm. I'm excited for this word because, well, number one, the words to me have been pretty heavy, but I know that they're the lessons in them, right? So it's nice to have a word that's very high positive energy, which is very strange coming to me today, the first day that we pick our word. Mondays we pick our new word on a day that, oh my goodness, I was such a slug, right? But the thing was, maybe the lesson in here was that enthusiasm, what I was talking about, that I did feel guilt and shame a little bit. There were a few times today when I thought, oh, you could do your live now, Cindy. And then what did I do? I go into the next the next lesson, or I go, oh my goodness, so and so posted. Well, I've gotta watch this video 100%. And then, oh my goodness, let's take care of it. And then there's always something else that needs to be done. But in my accountability and in that natural form that Cindy has by flying by the seat of her pants, and right, you put the pressure on her and she'll always come through. I always show up, right? But now it's midnight. Right now it's 8 minutes after midnight, to tell the truth there. And I could have shown up earlier, but in the lessons of those baby steps and being a little bit kinder to myself, recognizing that my energy levels were low today, which is odd that I crashed today, but that's sometimes how it does. You put all that adrenaline into getting something done, or rescuing, or that emergency, or that project needs to be done. And once it's done, that's when we go, right? And then we crash. It didn't seem like that was the case today, right? This weekend didn't seem any heavier or any more stress laden than any other weekend that I worked. But I know I do carry the energies, and I never know what's coming across my path, right? And if that energy is going to a good use, to a good purpose, like it's going to serve well, it is what it is, right? Right? I am no worse for wear from that. I needed it myself. I'll be going to bed in the next half an hour, and I'll be out in 5 minutes. And as long as I, as long as I go to the washroom before I go to bed, I won't be waking up until 7 o'clock in the morning, right? And I'll be up and about with everybody else in the world, right? which is a nice thing because that was not, for the most part of my life, the person that I was, right? I connected very little, right? Because, well, the whole world's sleeping at 4 o'clock in the morning, right? And there was a reason why it was my favorite time of the day. Because, well, I didn't have the lessons that I have the lessons now, right? And I needed that energy to be all mine at 4 o'clock in the morning because I was just giving it away like it was popcorn. It's my intent. I have that enthusiasm to keep giving it away. But isn't it amazing that I can dictate, right? That I actually have the lessons to say, oh my goodness, right? I'm not low energy. I'm not lazy. I'm not late, right? I showed up, right? I'm holding myself accountable and I'm smiling, right? I'm whistling. I'm whistling while I work and I'm not questioning, right? What's working, what's not working. Well, maybe I am. Maybe I am. I am. I was all day. I was just like, why am I so tired? Right? But sometimes in that questioning, you do find answers. Today, there really wasn't any answers except to say, right, maybe that's what was needed in the moment. Maybe that was just to bring it to my attention that, right, sometimes holding myself accountable doesn't mean always being on the move 100%. Okay, you guys, we got enthusiasm this week. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll look at it in a different way. Maybe I'll Google enthusiasm. I don't think, right? That's not a hard one to come across, but we will look at it in a different perspective. Why? Because we love looking at things in different perspectives, right? Because it gives us an idea of how others might think of it, right? And how we might think of it differently from one moment to the next. And that's a truth too. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. We'll see each other tomorrow. Bye bye.